السلام عليكم طلاب، شلونكم؟ احنا حاليا اتوقع عندنا 3 جروبات، صحيح؟
يس دكتور.
تسمعوني لو لا طلاب؟
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, but just I'm gonna tell you something everyone. راح أحكي بالعربي. الفورم يبقى مفتوح لمدة 10 دقائق. كتبوا حضوركم، وراها راح أقفل كل شيء. Okay, حسب تعليمات العمادة. Okay, please everyone fill the form in order to have the attendance. If you didn't do it in 10 minutes, I will close it because this is the new instructions from the dean. Okay. فلا حد يقول لي بعدين أنا نسيت وأني ما شفت وأني ما دخلت. Okay. Are the slides are clear, please? Can you see? السلايدات واضحة؟ شوفوا طلاب، هاي المحاضرة أنا راح أسألكم أسئلة لأنها تعرفون مثل ما تعرفون إحنا عندنا lab number 9 today. lab number 9 هي نفس الشيء، خلينا نقول development of the face. إحنا درسناها مرتين، شرحت لكم إياها، لكن اليوم شوي راح نعطيكم مو تفصيل إنما بطريقة أخرى حتى أقدر أوصل لكم المعلومة بشكل أفضل. واضح؟ فراح يصير عندنا شوية أسئلة راح أسألكم حتى أعرف إنه أنتم فعلا تدرسون وياي لو لا. فإيش راح أسوي؟ راح أختار بشكل عشوائي أي شخص وأسأله سؤال. واضح؟ لهذا أريدكم تركزون وياي. يعني راح أشوفه يجي بشكل عشوائي، أسأل وراح يجاوبني. واضح؟ Okay, let me tell you in English. Today I'm gonna explain the lecture. I mean, the development of the face that we have studied before 2 times, even in the theoretical lecture. But today I will give you some information, or let's say explain in another way that will make you understand the lecture better, inshallah. So since we study it, I will choose anyone randomly and ask a question. Please, if you're not with me, I will accept you as absent. واضح؟ فاللي ما يجاوبني وهو متواجد راح أحسبه غياب. هذه حسب تعليمات العمادة البارحة أو البارحة في الاجتماع. Okay? I hope you are with me. تسمعوني. إذا ما تسمعون, please tell me that you are not hearing me or there's a problem. Okay? So I don't know if you're hearing or not. No one is responding. Patient, tell me, can you hear?
نسمع دكتور.
Okay, Yusuf, shukran. Thank you. Okay, so let's start. Development of the face, as we studied before, that is start in the end of the 4th week. Okay, so the end of the 4th week means that at the end of the 1st month. Okay, at the end of the 1st month. So this will continue to the second month and third month also. Since we have other part of the mouth, we'll complete in the third month. Okay. So the fascial prominences, as we said that there are some prominences. عندنا احنا بروزات. These prominences consisting primarily from what? From mesenchyme. And we said that mesenchyme is a kind of tissue that acts as let's say germ cells. Okay, they are all derived from neural crest cells. Neural crest cells, and we said that are some kind of germ cells. Okay, origin cells, and they have the ability to form special kind or specialized kind of tissue and cells or parts that is found in the head and neck and also in the other part of the body, but we will stop on focus on the face. Okay, so they're formed mainly from the first pair of pharyngeal arches. As we said that pharyngeal arches will consist of two prominences, and these two prominences will form structures and parts found in the face. Okay, so this is important as origin. Okay, as origin. So if I ask you basically what is the origin of the fascial prominences, what are you gonna answer? The ones who are lifting, I don't know why we're lifting, but you will expect it as absent. ما أعرف ليش تغادرون، ما أعرف النت السبب، لكن إذا تتغادرون بسبب إني راح أسأل أسئلة فأنتم خسرانين، لأنه راح أحسبكم غياب. أوكي؟ أوكي. لازم تبقوا لنهاية المحاضرة. So I asked the question, someone will gonna answer. راح أختار واحد. Okay? Since you are not answering. So I asked you a question. What is the origin of the fascial prominences? شنو هو منشأ البروزات اللي راح تكون الوجه؟ جاوبتكم عليها بس أي واحد يعيد لي إياها. Yes please.
الميزنكايم.
اوكي هو ميزنكايم صحيح يوسف، هو ميزنكايم هو اللي يكونها. زين هذا الميزنكايم في الحقيقة وين تكون متواجدة؟ شوف بدي أشر لك عليها.
اوكي.
شوف بدي أشر لك عليها. تجي من إيش؟ تجي لك mainly from the pharyngeal arch اللي هو first. إيه أحسنت. من first pair of pharyngeal arch هي اللي تكون المنشأ الحقيقي للبروزات اللي تكون الوجه. واضح؟ So the first. Thank you, Yusuf. First pair of pharyngeal arches, they will form the fascial prominences. Okay, so during the fourth week, as we mentioned before, to the تذكرون oropharyngeal membrane that is formed in the third week of development. تذكروها? In the third week of the development, there was a structure that is found in the cranial end. احنا سميناها oropharyngeal membrane. Okay, oropharyngeal membrane begins to break down. Okay, why? Because we said before it will form the future oral cavity. So the oropharyngeal membrane begins to break down in order to become the future oral cavity. Why? Because actually we're talking about the development of the face. And we said that the oropharyngeal membrane will form in the third week of development, as you remember. And we said also that this will form the future oral cavity. Okay, there was an origin for oropharyngeal membrane. What was the origin of oropharyngeal membrane? Who can remember?
دكتورة عفوا.
نعم اياد.
دكتورة يصير غير جروب يدخل مو عادي؟
اي جروب؟ مال اليوم؟
لا باشر.
ليش؟ اريد سبب.
والله دكتورة باشر عندي شغل.
اوكي ماكو مشكلة اياد، بس سجل اسمك وسجل الجروب حتى لا يتخربط. تمام. اوكي
بالتعليقات؟
لا مو بالتعليقات، بالفورم.
تمام دكتورة شكرا.
اوكي اهلا وسهلا اياد. اوكي I asked the question what's the origin of the oropharyngeal membrane. من يقدر يتذكرها؟ oropharyngeal membrane. شارحيها من قبل. اللي يتذكرها طبعا على فكرة راح يصير عنده ستار. promise. اختار
دكتور
اني
شنو السؤال؟
عبد السميع. السؤال هو إذا تتذكرون أنا محاضرة 3 شرحت لكم إنه أكو structure اسمه Oropharyngeal Membrane. أوكي، اللي راح يكون لنا بالمستقبل oral cavity. واضح؟ Oropharyngeal Membrane يتكون من طبقتين. شنو هو منشأ شنو هي هاي الطبقتين أو شنو منشأ Oropharyngeal Membrane? What's the origin of the Oropharyngeal Membrane?
دكتور ectoderm والاندوديرم.
Ectoderm and endoderm. Excellent يوسف. Thank you. يوسف أخذت لك ستار محترم. Okay, أخذت لك ستار محترم. Thank you. So we said that oropharyngeal membrane that's formed by tightly adherence of ectoderm and endoderm, and this will be the future oral cavity. Okay, and also that will be the sites at the beginning of the digestive system. As you know, this will be if the oral cavity open, this will be the beginning of the digestive tract. واضح? So let's come to the prominences that is formed or that will form the face. Okay, so we have frontal nasal prominence, mandibular and maxillary prominences, and mainly nasal prominences اللي راح تكون لنا the face. Okay, that will form the face. So frontonasal prominence formed by proliferation of the mesenchymal neural crest cells. Okay, mesenchymal neural crest cells. Okay, that will be ventral to the forebrain. So we said that there are frontonasal prominences, as we mentioned before, and the frontonasal prominences will actually form as a result of proliferation. And what we said about proliferation, what does it mean? Yes, please. Yusuf, it's enough for you. Thank you. راح اختار اني. اوكي، عشوائي. شوف من راح يصير عندنا. Yes, إسراء إبراهيم. Can you tell me what does it mean, proliferation? Yes, إسراء. I'm waiting for you. إسراء إبراهيم. شنو يعني proliferation؟ شرحته من قبل.
نعم دكتورة.
اكو مصطلح اسمه proliferation إسراء. اوكي، شوفي
نعم.
هنا مكتوب proliferation. وينه؟
نعم دكتورة.
اوكي، proliferation. شنو يعني proliferation؟ سامعة بي من قبل؟
دكتورة أعتقد البروزات.
لا، prominences يعني بروزات. اوكي، البروزات هذه تتكون بعملية احنا نسمي هاي العملية proliferation. اوكي، شنو يعني proliferation of mesenchymal neural crest cells؟ يعني فشي يصير الميزنكايم نيورال كريستالز، يعني هاي الخلايا المنشئية الأصلية راح يصير عندها فد عملية حتى تكون لنا بروميننس. شنو هذه proliferation؟ سامعة بيها من قبل؟ نعم.
الانتشار.
إسراء أنت تحكين مو انتشار حياتي، مو انتشار. شوفي غير كلمة.
Increases in the number and size of the cell.
Okay, who is talking? Manar, isn't it? Manar. So إسراء, yes, proliferation is increasing in the cell size and number. كتبيها هسه بقلم وورقة يمش، لأن هاي الكلمة مهمة. واضح؟ كتبيها حتى لا تنسيها إسراء. Thank you, Manar. Thank you. So proliferation is increasing in the cell size and numbers. Okay, increasing in the cell size and numbers. So whenever the mesenchyme neural crystals will increase in size and number, there will be a wear in the ventral to the forebrain, and this prominences will start to appear. Okay, so first prominence is frontonasal prominence. Second we will have is mandibular and maxillary prominences. So what's the origin of the mandibular and maxillary prominences? ذاكريها من قبل. شنو هو origin mandibular and maxillary prominences؟ Yes? Who can tell me what's the origin of the mandibular and maxillary prominence? اختاراني عشوائي. قبالكم هو موجود على فكرة. شوفوا خلي أشوف لكم أغششكم بعدين راح أسألها مرة ثانية. What is the origin of the mandibular and maxillary prominences?
Pharyngeal arch.
Which pharyngeal arch? Who's talking? Let me see first of all. Who is talking? Noor?
First
Sabah?
pharyngeal arch.
Okay, Malak, please. Noor is talking. Thank you for answering. Noor Sabah, شنو هو الجواب? Pharyngeal arch?
Yeah, first pharyngeal arch.
First pharyngeal, excellent. Thank you. Thank you for both of you, Malak and Noor. So first pharyngeal arch, they will form the mandibular and maxillary prominences. Okay, they are parts of them. So a space will lie between the maxillary prominences, and this will covered by what? By oropharyngeal membrane. Okay, a space lies between the maxillary prominences. يعني بين الماكسيلاري prominence بين هذه البروزات there will be a space. Okay, حصلت فد فراغ. And this space is covered by what? By oropharyngeal membrane. Okay, and this will be known as stomatodium. Okay, stomatodium. And this stomatodium will be the precursor to the mouth and pituitary gland. يعني هذا الستراكشر اللي احنا نسميه stomatodium اللي هو اجى من ايش؟ شلون يتكون؟ Formed by a space that is found between maxillary prominence covered by oropharyngeal membrane. This will form stomatodium. Stomatodium what will form? راح يكون لنا الماوث pituitary gland. واضح؟ يعني I may ask you what is the origin of the mouth and pituitary gland, or what's the precursor of the mouth and pituitary gland إذا سألتها. You're gonna answer stomatodium. واضح? So the other one, I mean the other prominence that we need to talk about it is nasal development. Okay, the nasal development is instigated by the appearance of raised pumps. Okay, just look at here. These are the raised pumps, and I will show you in another picture. Look, these are the pumps. Okay, which is in real picture is look like this one. Okay, these are, and as you know, مثل ما يعني تخمنوها, as can you guess it, it will be the nasal pit in the future. Okay, nasal pit in the future. So again, let's look at it. It says that the nasal development is instigated by the appearance of the raised pumps that is called nasal placodes. إذن هذه الاستراكشرات اللي هي تكون as a pumps. Okay, نسميها احنا ايش؟ شوفوا nasal placode. Okay, these are nasal placodes. يعني إذا أجيبها بالصور، يعني العملي على فكرة على أكثر أجيب لكم صور بعد، فاللي هي بالصور بالسلايدات أو مثلا جبتها. I will ask you what is this structure. Okay, what is this structure? So you're gonna answer it is nasal placode. Nasal placode اللي راح تكون لنا إيش؟ What it will form in the future? Nasal pit. Nasal pit. Okay. So it says that this will be in the both sides of the frontal nasal prominences, and these will invaginate to form the nasal pit, as I said, with medial and lateral nasal prominences in each side. We've studied this one, and we said that some prominences that is found in the face or contribute in the formation of the face will form some structures. واضح? This will form some structures, and even these prominences have ability to form other prominences. Okay, like what? Like the frontal nasal prominence form forehead and bridge of the nose, medial and lateral nasal prominences. Okay, maxillary prominence can form cheeks, lateral portion of the upper lip, where the medial nasal can form the philtrum, upper lip, crest, and tip of the nose. Lateral nasal can form the alley of the nose. Mandibular can form the lower lip. Okay, so look at here, we have a maxillary prominences. هذا طبعا قد عمره هذا 5-week embryo. واضح 5-week embryo, and you can see that maxillary prominences, mandibular prominences right here, showing you that the nasal pit is formed. Okay, and we have a nasolacrimal groove is keeping or continuing to form or to develop. Okay, and these are frontonasal prominences. Okay, so as you see, nasal pit, lateral nasal prominence, and medial nasal prominence. Okay, they are formed from what? From what? As I said, from the placodes. Okay, from the nasal placodes. Okay, look at here. Whenever the embryo continues to develop, you see that we have the lateral nasal prominence, medial nasal prominence is really developed right here, and with the maxillary prominence and mandibular prominence. Look at here how this will end up with development. Okay, see the nasolacrimal and the philtrum is full formed. واضح? Look at here, this is another picture showing you the development of the face. As you see, this is in another way. Okay, so the frontal nasal prominence, nasal placodes right here. Okay, how it will form, how it will continue to be changed. Look at the change right here in the frontal nasal prominence and the nasal pit, oral opening, maxillary prominence with a mandibular arch. Just wait أسد الفورم. طبعا هسه نهاية المحاضرة راح أخذ لي في السكرين شوت وأقارن منو بقى لي نهاية المحاضرة ومنو ما باقي. اللي ما بقى لي نهاية المحاضرة عندنا عدد 38 و 39 كلهم راح أحذفهم. أبقي بس الموجودين لنهاية المحاضرة. Okay. So as you see again تشوفون عندنا frontal nasal prominence. واضح؟ Frontal nasal prominence, whenever it's continue to develop, look at here how the change will happen. Nasal placode will form nasal pits. Okay, look at the oral opening. Okay, and maxillary prominence. شوفوا الماكسيلاري prominence شلون يعني تغير أو إنه صار بي development. Okay, لاحظوها. And please focus on mandibular arch. Just look at this arch, how is forming the mandibular part. Okay, and this is the real picture. Look, nasolacrimal processing right here, and nasolateral processing, nasolacrimal groove. واضح؟ mandibular maxillary process or mandibular with the maxillary process are continuing to develop. Look the change. تشوفون التغيير week by week or even day by day. واضح؟ شوف من هذه المرحلة from this level to this level how the change will continue. Okay, till reaching to the end shape of the face of the, or let's say the parts of the development that happen in each structure. I mean, look, nasolateral processing, nasomedial, and philtrum of the lip. Okay, and also hyoid bone is appearing right here. واضح؟ I think it's clear. Any question? عندكم سؤال من development of the face من هذا الجزء؟ اللي عنده سؤال please ask. أسأل لو تسألون.
سألي دكتور.
Okay, حلو. أسأل. So, what is the origin of, or what's the precursor of the mouth and pituitary gland?
ستوماتوديوم.
Stomatodeum. Excellent. Who's talking? ما أقدر أشوف الاسم. يوسف please سد السماعة.
اوكي.
أريد القاعدين اللي ما أعرف وينهم موجودين ولا بس مجرد فاتحين الميتينج ورايحين على الأغلب. So what is the What is the origin of the nasal pits? شنو هو منشأ nasal pits?
nasal plaques.
Nasal plaques. Who's talking?
هم يناني.
يوسف. يوسف ما عندي في الطريقة انه اسوي لك ميوت. فبليز سوي لنفسك ميوت. اوكي خليهم يحجون انه راح اسال انا نهاية المحاضرة راح اسالهم مرة ثانية. اوكي راح اسالهم مرة ثانية واحد راح اسوي randomly I will choose. Okay, so let's continue. Okay. Development of the tongue. Development of the tongue نفسها اللي درسناها بالنظري is the same as a theoretical lecture, and it says that it will develop or start to develop in the 4th week of development, and is as start to develop as a result of the proliferation. Okay, so there will be a local proliferation of what? Of the mesenchyme, and this will give rise to some swellings, as you see right here. How the swelling, and each swelling has its own name, special name, like the oral part, that is the interior to the third part, or let's say it is, we usually say oral part, okay? It consists of 3 swellings, okay? 3 swellings: lateral lingual swelling, tuberculum impair. Okay, so we have 2 lateral lingual swelling and we have a 1 tuberculum impair. They will fuse to form the oral part. واضح? And we have foramen cecum and also copula, also epiglottal swelling. واضح? As you see, they will fuse together. كلها راح يصير عندها التحام تام, and they will form the tongue itself. But right here it will be anchored to the let's say roof of the mouth. Okay, and sorry, not roof, I mean it will be anchored to the mouth, and this will later on will be degenerated and they will be a free tip tongue. Okay, just there is an important thing to say. The posterior part of the root of the tongue, okay, it is actually originated from 2nd, 3rd, and parts of 4th pharyngeal arch. Okay, so I may ask you, what's the origin of the posterior part of the or root of the tongue? You're gonna answer 2nd, 3rd, and 4th pharyngeal arch. واضح? So another important topic for you is the development of the palate. Okay, this is important, everyone. Look, the primary palate develops at about 28 days of gestation. Okay, means that the end of the 1st month, or let's say in the 4th week of development. Okay, exactly, it says that 28 days of development, and it starts with primary palate that will develop from what? From the fusion. التحام الإيش? Frontonasal and medial nasal. Okay, so frontonasal, medial nasal will fuse and they will create a segment, and we call this segment intermaxillary segment, and later on this will form the primary palate. Again, primary palate develop from what? From the fusion, okay, from the fusion of frontonasal and medial nasal prominences, and this will create the intermaxillary segment, and this intermaxillary segment will later on form the primary palate. واضح? This is how primary palate form. So if I ask you what are the prominences that form the primary palate, you're going to answer frontonasal and medial nasal prominences. How primary palate forms as a result of the fusion of frontonasal and medial nasal prominences that will create intermaxillary segment, and this will form the primary palate. Regarding the secondary palate, this will develop between 7th and 8th week of development. Okay, and this will complete, the secondary palate complete to be formed in the 3rd month of gestation. Okay, the 3rd month of the gestation. How the secondary palate form? How the secondary palate form? It will form as a result of the maxillary prominence. Okay, the maxillary prominence will expand. The maxillary prominence will expand medially to give rise to some shelves. We call it palatal shelf. Yani maxillary prominence will expand medially. Look at here, maxillary prominences. Okay, they will expand like right here. Just look at here, and they will form some shelves. We call it palatal shelves or palatine shelves right here. Okay, and they will this palatine shelves will, or palatal shelves will fuse to form the secondary palate. اوكي اذا اول شيء maxillary prominence راح يكون لنا palatal shelves. اوكي palatal shelves يلتحمون ويكونون لنا secondary palate. واضح؟ So the maxillary prominence expand medially to give rise to palatal shelves, and they will fuse. There will be fusion of the palatal shelves to create secondary palate. Okay, to create secondary palate, just right here. واضح? Look at here. We have maxillary, intermaxillary segment that will form the primary palate. Okay, just right here. And maxillary prominences, they will expand to form some palatal plates or palatal shelf or palatine shelf, and they will fuse to form this palatal shelves. They will fuse to form what? To form the secondary palate. واضح? I think it's clear. So any question?
دكتور حيل واضح، بس اكو طالبات دا يكتبون تعليقات ما اعرف، دا يقولون الرابط ما يفتح وكذا.
اي رابط؟ لحظة خليني اشوف. هذا الحكي كل شوي يسوي لي اياها، رابط ما يفتح وهاي السوالف. ليش؟ لانه طبعا ما يفتح. انا سديته، قلت لكم اول 10 دقائق.
دكتورة.
نعم.
Regarding the form, there was connection problems. It couldn't open for some students. So if you could open it for 5 minutes so they can register. Some of them, they were in the meet. They were present in the entire meet. So if you could open the form for 5 minutes and you can close it again.
Okay. Who didn't write his name? Who couldn't write his name? Please write it here and I will record it. I won't open the form, patient. Why? Because you know why.
Okay.
Okay, patient. So the ones who were presenting in the lecture and they didn't write their name, please write your name. I will write it. I will record it. Okay. مو اللي جوي بالنهاية. أول 10 دقائق كانوا متواجدين. بعد هاي آخر مرة راح أسويها الأسبوع الجاي. أول ما أفتحها أول 10 دقائق تكتبون حضوركم، وبعد وراها نهائيا ما راح أفتحها. أوكي؟ هذه مو من تعليماتي، تعليمات العمادة.
دكتورة العفو، بس أنا كنت موجودة. الظاهر إن النت يمي كان بيها مشكلة وكل ساعة يطلعني من الميت، وحتى الرابط ما كان يفتح. يعني
إذا
أنا
سواها
موجودة.
سبميت ملاك، إذا سوى سبميت سويتيها خلاص بعد. يعني
لا
أنا
دكتورة أصلا
حاليا عندي 50 واحد مسجل حضور. إذا أنتم ما موجودين لا منو دول 50 واحد؟ صح ولا لا؟
دكتورة أني أصلا الرابط ما كان يفتح يمي حتى أسوي سبميت.
أوكي تمام.
شكرا.
أهلا وسهلا. كتبي اسمك الثاني أسجلها.
كتبتها دكتورة. شكرا.
أوكي زين. راح نسوي فد ريفيو أسرع. زين، وحسأل أسئلة. واضح؟ اللي عنده سؤال واللي ما فاهم بليز اسألوا، لأن هذا الموضوع مهم. هذا أهم شيء. فهمتوا هذا الموضوع؟ هاي بعد ما عندي إشكال بكم. انتقل لغير مرحلة. اوكي، أنا أعتبر إنه الكل فهم الموضوع صح؟ أنا هيك راح أفهمها، إنه الكل فهمها وما عندنا إشكال، فلهذا راح أسأل أسئلة. دانيا is raising her hand. Yes, Dania, you're raising your hand. شوفوا طلاب، أنا حاليا عندي الحضور هذا الموجودين، اللي دخل واللي طلع، فراح أقارنها نهاية المحاضرة. اللي ما متواجد نهائيا ما راح أسجل له حضور. أوكي، so let's review. راح أسألكم أسئلة خلال الريفيو، فاللي يعرف خليه يرفع إيده، واللي ما يعرف راح أضطر إنه راح أسوي اختيار عشوائي. Okay, so we will stop on important things. Okay, we said the development of the face starts in the 4th week, and we have an origin for this fascial prominences that is came from first pair of pharyngeal arch. Okay, and during the 4th week also there's an important thing happen regarding the development of the face, which is the oropharyngeal membrane starts to break down and become the future oral cavity, and this will also be the beginning of the digestive tract formation. There are some prominences that will form the face structures. Frontonasal prominence, okay, that came from proliferation of some mesenchyme neural crystals, and mandibular maxillary prominences, that these are actually parts of the first pharyngeal arch or formed from first pharyngeal arch. So a space between maxillary prominences, also covered by oropharyngeal membrane, they known as stomatodium, and this stomatodium will be the precursor for the mouth and pituitary gland. Okay. Nasal development is actually starts with the appearance of the raised pumps. These raised pump, we call it nasal placode, and nasal placodes forms the nasal pits with the medial lateral nasal prominences on each side of the face, and some structures that are contributing in the formation of the face is called prominences. These prominences can form structure and also can form other kind of prominence. Frontonasal prominence form forehead, bridge of the nose, and medial lateral nasal prominences. Maxillary prominence can form cheek and other parts of the upper lip. Medial nasal also can form tip of the nose, filtrum of the upper lip, and blah blah. Lateral nasal can form alley of the nose. Mandibular can form the lower lip. Okay, and we showed you that how the prominences will continue to develop and forms the structure that are placed in the face. Okay, and this is also showing you the development from the 4th week, how it starts from the prominences and end up with the structure itself. Okay, we said the tongue develop at about 4th week, and by a process is called proliferation of some mesenchyme. This will lead to form the swellings, and the swellings will fuse to form the parts of the tongue. Okay, and also we said that the root of the tongue originates from 2nd, 3rd, and parts of the 4th pharyngeal arch. Development of the palate become in the 2 phases, and also in 2 different times. First of all, start with the primary palate, and this will happen in the 28 days of gestation, and happen by fusion of some prominences that are frontonasal and medial nasal. This will create an intermaxillary segment, which will form the primary palate. Okay, while the secondary palate develops between 7th and 8th week of gestation and complete in the 3rd month. Okay, the maxillary prominence For the secondary palate, the formations happen in two steps. First of all, the maxillary prominence expands medially and will form some structure. We call it palatal shells. Okay, look like here. Okay, and fusion of the palatal shells, fusion of these palatal shells will create a secondary palate. Okay, so a question. Tell me when the development of the face starts. Yes, please.
At the end of the 4th week.
At the end of the fourth week. Okay. What else at the end of the 4th week form regarding the face?
Oral cavity.
Oral cavity, excellent. I think you're Ahang, isn't it?
Lara.
Lara.
The first
okay.
one was Ahang.
Okay. Both of you had the same sound. Okay. Ahang and Lara. Thank you for both of you. What about the frontonasal prominence? What is the origin of frontonasal prominence?
proliferated.
proliferated هي العملية. شنو هو الأوريجين؟ هي صح proliferation، بس شنو هو اللي راح يصير به proliferation؟
mesenchyme.
نفس الشخص اللي كان يحكي وياي يجاوبني، ما دا أشوف الأسامي يعني.
دكتور ميزنكايما.
mesenchymal neural crystals. واضح mesenchymal. Thank you. Okay. زين. What else? Let me see. خل أشوف من اللي دا يجاوبني حتى أشوفكم. What about the origin of the mandibular and maxillary prominences? شنو هو الأوريجين؟
Pharyngeal arch.
First pharyngeal arch.
arch.
Okay. What is how stomatodium form? How stomatodium form? How stomatodium form? شلون يتكون stomatodium?
It forms from the space of
Yusuf,
in
please
the maxilla.
wait. Yusuf ونور please wait both of you. شكرا. انتوا اثنيناتكم دا تجاوبون واكتف اثنيناتكم. اريد الاشخاص اللي قاعدين هنا اللي هو احنا عندنا حاليا 43 واحد.
دكتورة.
Okay. نعم روز. Yes.
It's originated as depressed area.
It's not depressed area actually. صح هو somehow.
بالdepressed
لا
area.
بدأ أسأل على origin. في روز. روز بدأ أسأل أقول how يعني شنو كيف يتكون صح لا لا كيف يتكون افتح لك السلايد شوفيها.
Okay. الممبرين separating.
just look دا تشوفين السلايد
دقيقة أي
دا تشوفيها أوكي. شو يقول لك space between شنو between
the maxillary prominence.
طبعا هذه شلون راح تكون covered by Oropharyngeal Membrane. إذا هو فد فراغ في space مكان وين متواجد بين Maxillary Prominences. هذا طبعا شو راح يصير به يكون covered مغطى بإيش Oropharyngeal Membrane. هذا شو نسميه إحنا stomatodium. أوكي روز واضح؟ فهمتي أعتقد أحسن هسه.
تمام.
Okay. Who can tell me what's the precursor of the mouth and pituitary gland? What is the precursor of the mouth and pituitary gland? راح اختار. Since ماكو شخص جديد راح اختار. عشوائي. نور ومنعم. Yes نور منعم. شنو هو البريكورسر الماوث pituitary gland؟ شنو هو منشأ mouth pituitary gland؟ منو يكونه؟ نور منعم راضي كاظم. هذا اسم الرباعي موجود.
دكتور stomatodium.
رانيا احنا صحنا نور. رانيا جاوبت لنا صح. رانيا thank you. صح stomatodium thank you. Let me see. What is the origin of the nasal pits? Which structure form nasal pits?
Nasal placodes.
Nasal placodes. Lara, thank you. Let me see what else. هنشوف بعد شوي حتى أسألكم. What is the prominence that form alley of the nose?
Lateral nasal prominence.
Lateral. هذه من هسه يا إما هانج أو لارا.
هانج.
هانج. Okay. Lateral nasal prominence. Okay. What about the medial nasal prominence?
Frontal nasal prominence.
Frontal nasal prominence. Who is frontal nasal? Who's talking? Noor Sabah.
نعم.
Okay. So what else? نشوف بعد شكو. نجي على tongue. What are the swellings that form the oral part? لحظة لا تجاوبون خليني اختار اي شخص قاعد. هم طبعا ما يجاوبوني قصة اطلعهم اني اسوي لهم فد ريموف. اوكي مريم صالح خلف علي. مريم صالح تسمعيني او تغلسين؟ اوكي مروة.
نعم دكتورة.
مروة هسه افتح لك السلايد. شوفي دا اسأل شنو هو origin of the oral part or يا swellingات راح تكون لنا oral part.
lateral lingual
swelling عافية.
lateral
ولا
lingual swelling and medial swelling.
excellent. thank you مروة أحسنتي. okay what is the origin of the root of the tongue؟ خلوني اختار لتجاوبون. root of the tongue. محمد واحد الدين حميد. يس محمد أو محمد تيمور واحد من عندكم.
نعم
محمد واحد. excellent محمد. قل لي شنو هو origin of the oral root of the tongue؟ قدامك
second and
الجواب.
three part of fourth front arch.
أحسنت. fourth pharyngeal arch. second
دكتورة.
third and parts of the fourth pharyngeal arch. excellent. thank you محمد.
دكتورة.
نعم
دكتورة هو الأورال بارت مو كان بالانتيريور؟
هو anterior part. oral part هو anterior 2/3.
أي بس 2/3
يعني هو البداية. 2/3 oral part هو anterior 2/3 نفس الشيء. إذا قلت لكم anterior 2/3 أو قلت لكم oral part فهو نفس الكلام. واضح؟
تمام.
أوكي. نجي على الباليت. when primary palate develop. خليني أشوف من أكو هنايا. مآب.
نعم دكتورة.
مآب when primary palate form.
from the primary palate.
when شوفي إذا أقول when يعني متى؟
دكتور 28 days
of gestation. يعني شنو يعني first month صح؟ at the end
yes.
of the first month. thank you Ab. excellent. which one form before primary palate or secondary palate؟ لا تجاوبون خلوني اختار. فلاح حسن محمد. اوكي فلاح ما يجاوب. شيماء عباس. شيماء عباس ماكو. شهريبان خالد.
نعم دكتورة.
نعم شيماء. اوكي شيماء. شيماء which one form before primary palate or secondary palate؟ يا هو يتكون قبل primary palate or secondary؟
primary palate.
Excellent. Primary palate form before secondary palate. Okay, thank you. Okay, Shahrivan Khalid. Shahrivan. Okay, Sarab. Sarab Salim. Zahra.
نعم دكتورة.
Zahra, let me ask you, what's the origin of the primary palate? شنو origin primary palate? Which prominences form primary palate? قبالك موجود؟
segment.
صح، هو intermaxillary segment هو اللي راح يتكون كجزء، لكن من هو اللي أنشأه؟ يا prominence. الزهرة أريد تجاوب. Frontal nasal and medial nasal. Okay, thank you. آخر سؤال خلص موعد اللاب. What is the origin or how the secondary palate form? أي شخص ممكن يجاوبني عليها؟
Expand medially to give rise of palatal shells.
This is first step. Then second one, Rania. She's the بعدين. Palatal
shells form the secondary palate.
Excellent. Thank you, Rania. Thank you. Everyone, thank you very much. So this is all for today. If you have a question, you can ask anytime. واضح? See you inshallah next week. Patient raising his hand. Yes, please.
Yeah, Doctor, I was asking about the PDF. We don't have it. The Lab 9 development of face.
Okay, I will put it now. Just now. Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone. See you next week.